We've been telling you, and I guess new reports are coming out. Listeners are sending me links to, the Mark Stein article from yesterday about how Quin Snyder and the Jazz are buddies that we reported a month ago. And we've talked a lot about Quin Snyder on this show. I think we can all agree with that. But now the question prevails. Will Quin Snyder be the next head coach of the LA Lakers? And this is an interesting question because we now know that the LA Lakers want to interview Quin Snyder for their head coaching job. And we also know that the Lakers want to interview several current coaches for their head coaching vacancy because they fired Frank Vogel yesterday after 3 years and a championship on the job. So, Jake, the question is, A, should the Jazz facilitate that interview? And B, do you think Quin Snyder would leave for the LA Lakers?
No, they should not facilitate that interview. And I would just like to say, quick note on Frank Vogel. You just said the Lakers fired him after 3 seasons in a championship.
Correct.
How? How, bro? And this is the conversation. And this directly correlates to the Jazz. Should they facilitate that interview? Hell no. Are there people out there that think that Quin Snyder is the worst head coach in the league and he's the only reason this team is struggling? Yes, absolutely yes. We hear it every day on the show. We see the comments. And what I'm here to tell you today is this is not all Quin Snyder's fault. Are there some conversations to have around Quin Snyder? Absolutely, positively yes. The rotations, coming out of timeout plays that he draws up. Yeah, there are some things to talk about with Quin, as there are with every head coach. But I want to make sure that we're all on the same page about Quin Snyder and his contribution. Number one to the organization, but number two in the day-to-day with this team. So number one, Quin Snyder has been here like 10 seasons now, I think it is. 9 or 10 seasons at this point. He's done nothing short of sensational work with this organization. Remember, we're talking about the Utah Jazz with all due respect. This isn't the Lakers. This isn't the Celtics or the Bulls. Like, this is a team that is not in a major market. This is a second-tier team that he has elevated to a postseason contender and a title contender in some people's eyes. So he's done a hell of a job. But I think whether we're talking about Frank Vogel and the Lakers, whether we're talking about Quin Snyder and the Jazz, or whether we're talking about any head coach and their team, at some point, it becomes incumbent on the players to actually go out and do their damn job. It becomes necessary for Royce O'Neal to take the shot in clutch time in the corner. It becomes, necessity that Rudy Gobert develops his game, that Don develops his game. Right? Quin can't go out there and dribble the ball for these guys. Quin can't go out and make the shot. Quin can't go out and make sure that Jordan Clarkson doesn't turn it over 5 times a game. So I actually think that they should extend Quin Snyder, provided that they change the group of players here. Because if you're just going to work within this same formula, there's no point to extending him and keeping him around. You might as well just go and get a new guy, start fresh with a new voice, and hope for the best, But as we've discussed, they are going to change the roster. And this team is going to look different.
See, I think this is what happens when we talk about this stuff. I think we go too far. Why should the Utah Jazz extend Quin Snyder? From what I understand, and I could be wrong, Quin Snyder has 2 more years left on his contract with the Jazz. So why would you extend him now? This team has disappointed in the playoffs, a team that he's been the head coach of for almost a decade. Why are you going to extend him now? You extended him previously. Let him, advance through these playoffs, see what happens, and then once you remake this roster, then we can talk about, hey, are we going to give Quin Snyder a contract extension? Because I got to be honest with you. If you're not going to blow up this roster, I'm not interested in having Quin Snyder coach this group of players anymore. I mean, there's only so much impact a coach can have on a roster. And I think at this point, if you're not willing to make wholesale changes to the players that are on this roster, Quin Snyder's probably not the right coach for this group of guys. If we're being really honest, I think you would need a different voice in the room. Now, having said that, if you're going to blow this roster up, yeah, absolutely. Extend Quin Snyder, make him the head coach for the next 5 years, and let's go about our business. But if you are not going to blow this roster up, extending your head coach, and this is just my opinion, I mean, obviously you feel differently, but if you're not going to blow this roster up, I don't see any point in keeping Quin and his staff around.
Yeah, I agree. That's basically what I was saying. Like, if you're not going to make changes, you're doing the same thing, and it doesn't make a whole lot of sense to just keep doing the same thing over and over again. And again, that's why I say, like, I think to the people who are like, well, Quin doesn't make any adjustments. Well, I don't think he's got the players to make adjustments. I don't think that he's got what he needs to fix what ails this team. Why are we blaming Quin Snyder for, guys like Royce O'Neal who refuse to shoot the three in crunch time? Like that type of play, you can't fix that. That is literally Royce's choice or Jordan Clarkson's choice to force a play or whatever the case may be. So, yeah, I mean, should they facilitate the interview? No, they should not. I wouldn't. If I'm the Jazz, I don't help the Lakers on any level at all, ever, And if I do have to do business with the Lakers, I'm going to make sure that I get mine. And that we win the trade or the Jazz win the trade. That's how I'd be going about it as far as the Lakers are concerned. So we'll see. But no, I wouldn't be facilitating the interview. I would not allow them to interview him. And yeah, I mean, I guess I'd make him play out his contract, but that's not really how head coaching positions work. I mean, you're either going to let him just run the contract out and let him go to a new organization, or you're probably going to extend him before this current deal's done.
I'm not advocating. And by the way, we're talking about this because, Mark Stein claims that the Jazz are working on an extension for Quin Snyder, which very well may be true. I'm told that would not happen until the summer. And again, I think Quin Snyder's a really good head coach who has not met expectations at the team level. This team was expected, rightly or wrongly, and I've said for 2 years wrongly, but this team was expected to contend for an NBA championship. I personally don't think the roster's constructed to win at a high level in this league, not in today's NBA.
Mm-hmm.
That's not Quin Snyder's fault. He had a team with the best record in the NBA last year. They didn't change that team almost at all, the core group of guys. And you had the fifth best record in the Western Conference this year. That's not Quin Snyder's fault. But what I am saying is, if you're not willing to openly talk about what's wrong with this team, why are you willing to talk about an extension? That's just not the right way to go about things. And I will also say that when you look at the dysfunctional organizations around this league, and I'll point to the Sacramento Kings, like this story came out about how the Kings were all in place to trade for Jordan Clarkson before he was traded to the Utah Jazz. The reason that deal didn't go through, Vivek Ranadive, the head man, the owner of the Sacramento Kings, wanted to go out and think about it. He wanted to take time. So the Cavs said, well, no, screw you. We're going to trade Jordan to the Utah Jazz in one of the biggest thieveries and robberies that we've seen in the last 5 years in a trade, because Jordan Clarkson obviously would come to the Utah Jazz, win Sixth Man of the Year, and be part of the reason that the Jazz had the best record in the NBA last year.
Yeah.
All of that to say, I don't think there's some onus or some need to go out and extend Quin Snyder right now.
Yeah, I think that the thing is we don't know. I mean, unless you're in the organization, you don't know where Quin and the front office are as far as timelines are concerned. So I agree. I wouldn't extend him tomorrow, but I do think that this summer when you make all these roster changes, obviously you got to look at the head coach and make a decision there, which is all right. Like you were just saying, he's got 2 years left on the deal. But if you're Danny Ainge and you're Justin Zanuck and you're Ryan Smith, you're sitting here saying, all right, we got this roster in place. We've done what we can do. What do we want to do with Quin? And I think that Quin is more than capable of winning a title in this organization, provided he's got the tools to do it. And
I think Quin Snyder will never be the reason you don't win a championship.
Yeah.
I think it's more likely Rudy Gobert is the reason you don't win a championship, and his salary. It's no depth off the bench. It is, no ability to draft players right now because you just don't have the assets. You have all these things that you're trying to dig out of, right? Quin Snyder is the least of your problems. And I agree with you. I understand that there's a lot of Jazz fans who don't like Quin Snyder. I understand there's a lot of Jazz fans who don't believe in Quin Snyder. But it's hard to argue. It's almost inarguable that the roster construction's the problem it's not Quin Snyder.
Mm-hmm.
And you don't have to like his rotations, but he's won. And he's won a hell of a lot of games, and he's won far more games than most other NBA coaches. Now, do his teams collapse late in games? Yeah, they do. Are you too one-dimensional offensively and rely on the three? Yeah, you are. But what else are you going to do with this group of players? Because you lack athletes and you lack guys that can attack the basket.
Yes.
So, in my opinion, I don't see Quin Snyder as being some huge part of the problem for the Utah Jazz.
Yeah, I mean, it's not like we're in a place where you have this. You've got a LeBron-led team, and you're getting booted from the playoffs because the coach doesn't know how to run the team. Not to say that that's what Frank Vogel did, but I'm just saying it's not like the Jazz have this elite roster and all this talent, and they should be dominating teams.
Right.
And Quinn's just like running a bad ship. I mean, that's not what's happening here. And that's why I say, like, for the people who are pro get rid of Quin, go find me another guy who's available that is as good or better, because I got news for you. Those guys are not around. Those guys are signed, coaching their teams, and going through the playoffs. Monty Williams is not going anywhere. You've got what's his face in Memphis, Casey. I can't remember his name off the top of my head, but he's not going anywhere. You've got all these guys. Like Nick Nurse is a great head coach who the Lakers are going to pursue aggressively. So my thing here is understand that the grass isn't always greener on the other side. If you're going to change head coaches, number one, it better be a fit with this new roster you put together this summer. But number two, it better be worth it, because the biggest mistake you could make here is getting rid of Quin for a guy who can't come in and deliver.
Well, and I think Taylor Jenkins is an interesting guy to bring up.
Taylor Jenkins, yes.
Because, the head coach at Memphis,
yes.
Because him and Quin Snyder are very close friends. They work together in the Spurs organization. And you leave guys in place like that, and you see that good things happen, right? Quin Snyder, you can say anything you want almost about Quin Snyder. He sucks as a head coach. He has terrible rotations. Again, it's inarguable he's done a ton of good things. You can go ahead and go back to the Ty Corbin days if you like. Nah, I'm fine. I'll stick with Quin Snyder, because Mike D'Antoni is not walking through that door anytime soon, right? Like the guy that you're going to see that is going to replace Quin Snyder whenever that happens is probably going to be a young head coach. You are probably looking at somebody that's not accomplished as a head coach.
Yeah.
And unless you're willing to pay big money, because I guarantee you, I think Mike D'Antoni's probably the next head coach of the Philadelphia 76ers, and it's going to cost them, because where's D'Antoni now? He's on Steve Nash's staff at Brooklyn. Mm-hmm. But if you look at what's going on in Philly, tell me that that's not Houston East. That's exactly what it is. The general manager, James Harden, you look at the roster makeup there, it's the Houston Rockets East. It makes sense that Mike D'Antoni goes there, right?
Yeah.
But who's the Steve Nash that's the next head coach of this team? There really is not one. You are going to wind up with an inexperienced head coach coming in here to run this show. And I'm telling you, that's a mistake. In my opinion, you can only look as far as Gordon Hayward, going out on restricted free agent visits to understand why you do not want Quin Snyder talking to other teams.
This ain't even a conversation. He should not be talking to the Lakers or any other team. This is not well, we got to respect Quin in his space, and we got to let him view the best opportunity for his career. No, unequivocally, no. He should not be talking to anybody else. And if you hear otherwise, that person does not value Quin Snyder and his contribution. I mean, I can't see, especially because it's the Lakers. I don't hate the Lakers, but if you're the Jazz, you really want your head coach, your playoff winning head coach, talking to the Lakers? I don't think so. Not even a little bit.
No, and I think, it was pointed out that Mike D'Antoni is an advisor with the Pelicans. Excuse me for getting that wrong. But I look at some of the other names that are being floated. Do you really want Doc Rivers? Do you really want to play in a in a pond with one of the hottest candidates in the NBA right now? Is Kenny Atkinson the assistant with the Warriors, or Phil Handy the assistant with the Lakers? You're telling me you feel like that's an upgrade to Quin Snyder? I just don't see it that way. And I'll say again, and I know I've said this a ton on this show, I value Quin Snyder. He is an elite head coach. I do not believe he's going anywhere.
Yeah.
I do think that they will pay him whatever it is he needs to be paid. I do think it's another reason why, and I tweeted what I tweeted a month ago. None of these things will be discussed until this season's over.
Yeah.
And I think when the season's over, Quin Snyder would be open to talking to the Lakers. I do. I think it would be dumb business for Quin Snyder to turn that interview down. But I also think it's far-fetched to believe that Quin Snyder will leave this situation in Utah with one of the hottest young owners in the NBA to go to the Lakers and try to, steer that Laker ship through a pond of crap. Like, I just don't know. I don't know why you would do that. That doesn't make sense. Quin Snyder obviously has worked for that team and that organization, but I don't necessarily believe that that's a reason why he would be their next head coach.
Yeah.
I think Quin Snyder would be the number one candidate for any vacancy should he not work for the Jazz anymore. But that doesn't mean, and by the way, somebody was asking me on Twitter yesterday why the Jazz would allow him to interview. It is true that the process is in place that, the Jazz have to give permission because he's under contract to them, but it's up to Quin Snyder if he goes and interviews for that job. They will go to him, and my guess is the Lakers would go to his agent, and they would go to the Jazz, and they would say, hey, we're interested in talking to Quin for our head coaching vacancy. The agent would go to the team. The team would talk to Quin Snyder in some way in that chain of communication, and they would say, Quin, would you really like to go and interview for this job? Is this something that you want to talk to them about?
Never.
And if Quin says yes, they're going to let him go interview for that job. And if he says, well, why don't we work out his agent? My guess is if his agent is savvy, and he is, my guess is his agent will say, okay, well, let's extend Quin, and then we don't even have to worry about other openings.
Agreed.
That to me is that's the way business gets done in the NBA. That's my guess that's how this will go down. But Quin Snyder's always going to be a candidate. The problem is Ryan Smith savvy enough as an owner to navigate these waters?
Yeah.
I don't know. Does Ryan Smith realize what he has in Quin Snyder? I don't know. Ryan Smith, I'm waiting for you to impress me. I'm waiting for you to impress me because you haven't yet.
Yeah.
I'm waiting. And this summer, the moment the season ends, you need to kick the ball down the hill and start rolling.
Yep.
Because I think my guess is they already know what they're going to do. They already know if they're going to trade Rudy Gobert. They already know if they're going to blow this roster up.
I mean, we always hear about, like when the KD and Kyrie to Brooklyn thing happened, we heard a couple months later that they had already knew that that's what they were going to do. So it's not far-fetched to think that the Jazz know what they're going to do. They've had conversations, and, it's moving now.
I don't know. I see a lot of people, mentioning the name Sam Cassell. But why is Sam Cassell somebody that's attractive to you? Because this is a guy who has been under Doc Rivers' wing for many years now.
Mm-hmm.
And I agree he's going to be a head coach somewhere. I don't know where that is. But does Sam Cassell really fit into what you do in L.A. or, in Utah? I don't know that he does. I think he may well fit in for the Lakers. I mean, Sam Cassell would be a great interview for the Lakers. I don't know. My guess is that if Doc Rivers is a free agent, that's his job, because I don't think Quin Snyder is going to be a candidate. I really don't.
Yeah.
I really, really don't think that he'll be a candidate. All right, let's get some of your thoughts in here. Edgar Garcia, good morning to you, friend. Jeremy Bolton, what's up? You're early today, Jeremy Bolton. Teddy Wayman, how the heck are you? Eric C. says, Diego Maradona, rip. Yep, Diego Maradona, one of your favorite dead athletes. We started the show this morning riffing on your favorite dead athlete. And Jake slapped me in the face with Walter Payton after I had said Kobe Bryant.
Yeah.
My favorite dead athlete is Walter Payton.
Mm-hmm.
There's just no doubt about it. I mean, there's a lot of famous dead athletes, but Walter Payton's my guy. You're probably Kobe Bryant, I would have to think.
Yeah, Kobe.
I mean, Baker Mayfield is dead.
Yeah, he's dead. Yeah. Yeah, he's
I'll stop.
yeah, it's not good.
Greg Hawkins, what's up? New Greg Hawkins sitting in a bathtub shirtless in another ad because Greg Hawkins is famous.
Oh.
Just saying. Just saying. Good job. Good on you, Greg. Jordan A says, morning. Hey, guys, drop.
Oh, Hey guys,
Jordan A
drop.
wants the hey guys. Hey guys.
Hey guys.
Hey
Guys.
Hey Jordan. Good to see you. I love that people continue to call for their own drops.
Hey guys.
Edgar Garcia says, I think he will. Money talks, and with them blowing up the team this summer, it would be a good time to do it. Oh, I see. I look at it the exact other way, Edgar Garcia. I think Quin Snyder knows this team needs to be imploded.
Yeah.
And if you bring in a new group of guys, and if you bring in wings that can attack the basket, my feeling is that there's no better head coaching candidate for this gig than Quin Snyder.
Yeah.
Because that guy, I'm telling you, I don't know. I hold Quin Snyder in higher regard than most people do. I look at him as almost a basketball savant. There are not many people I would hire over Quin Snyder. I wouldn't. I wouldn't. And I'm hoping the Jazz value him the same. James Knight says, morning, lads. What's up? Jeremy Bolton says, Vogel was the fall man because of the ineptitude of the organization. Yes, correct.
He's
That's
just
exactly
a fall
right.
guy.
Yeah, he's a nothing. He's a straw man.
Schemers trying to control their little worlds.
LeBron.
And Garcia says, morning, muchachos.
Morning.
And Garcia, good to see you. He says, maybe because Quinn's rotations and adjustments are awful. Yeah, sure. That's something we can talk about. Edgar Garcia says, I'm not saying he should go. I just think if Snyder has had any thoughts of leaving, he would for the Laker job. I think a lot of people value the Laker job.
I think the Laker job is akin to the USC job. I think that the Laker job is tumultuous. I think it is very volatile, but at the same time, if you can win a championship there, you're a legend.
Leonard Donnan Endelove, LDN, says
Don't
Nick
you
Nurse
know
is
who I am?
Yeah, seriously. Nick Nurse is rumored to be the top candidate for the Lakers position. Well, I think most people, if you read the headlines this morning, it's Quin Snyder. So you're welcome.
Nick
by
Nurse
the way.
is a top candidate for everyone's head coaching position. I mean,
You're welcome. By the way.
Yeah, you are welcome.
I tweeted that yesterday.
Yeah.
You know.
They would like to interview Quin Snyder.
Do you want to set up the meeting?
Rudy Sanchez says, morning, fellas. LDN says the Jazz need Nick Nurse because he is a better offensive coach and a brilliant defensive coach. Championship coach. Okay. Forgive my ignorance, but doesn't the head coach have a significant say in the construction of the roster? He does not.
No.
He does not. Well, I should say in dysfunctional organizations like Gail Miller's Utah Jazz that we saw over the last 5 years, he did not. So because Gail was very much detached from decision making.
You're so smooth with it, bro.
What?
In dysfunctional organizations that suck.
I didn't say that. I just said the Jazz under Gail Miller's leadership were about selling cars.
Yes.
This organization was about selling movie tickets. It
Bro,
was not about winning games.
Dude, they put a practice facility next to a car dealership. What else do you need to see?
Brilliant move, by the way. But now the Miller family obviously doesn't own the dealerships anymore.
Yeah.
So, And Garcia says, Sam Cassell, God's damn it, champion on multiple levels. Playoff winning, LMAO. Elia Kraft says, the only problem with Q is in-game adjustments, which Ty Lue, Spo, and Kerr have. They always had a surprise in the clutch. Yeah, I would agree with that.
Yeah.
I just don't know. Again, this is what I ask, and I ask this every time this comes up. What adjustments do you want Quin Snyder to make?
And the other thing that those guys have that Quinn doesn't is they have multiple guys who can hit a game-winning shot. So you don't know who they're going to go to, which is why they have the element of surprise.